So by the time the 1915-16 season rolled around, the Montreal Canadiens were well prepared to be Stanley Cup champions. Now, you wouldn't think that there was a NHL or an NHA without Montreal as the title holders for the association. By the 1916 season, Montreal was in the league since 1909 and were still struggling to get it done. Now, the 1916 Stanley Cup Finals was a challenge event between the winners of the NHA, the Habs, and the Pacific Coast Hockey Association's champion Portland Rosebuds. It was the first time that a best-of-5 cup title went the distance. Also, the Rosebuds were the first team based in the States to play for the cup, and they almost won it. The Habs defeated the Rosebuds 3-2 in the best-of-5, and again, it was the Canadiens' first title. Now, Montreal won the NHA title after finishing the 1916 regular season first with a solid 16-7-1 record. Meanwhile, Portland clinched the PCHA title with a 13-5 tally. Now, the games in the series were played at Montreal Arena, as it was the turn of the NHA champions to host the series. Games 1, 3, and 5 were played under NHA rules. Games 2 and 4 were played under PCHA rules. Ernie Johnson shared the series revenues, of course, was by court order to be paid to the Montreal Wanderers, whom he had left while under contract to go to the PCHA. For the entire series, future Hockey Hall of Famer goalie George Vezina aided Montreal by posting a 2.60 goals against average, and of course the rest is history. Didier Pitt led the Canadiens in scoring with 4 big counters. Montreal Canadiens roster included Vezina in goal, Howard McNamara, the goon of the team, at point, the captain, Bert Colbeau at cover point, Pieter at center rover, Edouard Newsy Lalonde, player coach at center, George Goldie Progers at right wing, left wing, Jacques Laviolette at left wing, Amos Arbor at left wing, Louis Berlingetti at left wing, Georges Skinner Poulet at center, Skeen Ronan at center right wing, Spare Jack Fournier at right wing, left wing, as well as U.P. Boudreau as president, and of George Kennedy Kendall, who was the manager-owner. The Rosebuds roster, including Tommy Murray in goal, Del Irvin at point, Ernie Moose Johnson at cover point, Red Smokey Harris as rover left wing, Tommy Dunderdale at center, Eddie Oakman at light wing, Charles Tobin left wing, right wing, Charles Asquila at left wing, Alf Arbor at center, and C.D. Doherty was president while Edward Savage was manager-coach. Now, Game 1 went to Portland. They had arrived by train the day before the March 20th contest, 1916, but showed no weariness. Regarding the shutout despite Game 1 being played under Eastern rules, which was 6-a-side. It was noted that Portland's speedy back-checking limited Montreal to only 6 chances. Now, in Game 2, despite missing Newsy Lalonde on March 22nd due to a bad cold, and Jacques Laviolette with a recurrent broken jaw, Montreal, behind some heavy checking, defeated Portland 2-1 to tie the series under Western PCHA rules, which meant 7-a-side. Now, in Game 3, Lalonde and Laviolette were back. Lalonde unfortunately got into a fight with Ernie Johnson, requiring the police to break it up. Lalonde and Laviolette were ejected from the game, and Eddie Open received a major penalty. Pitt was the scoring star, scoring a hat-trick to lead the Habs to a 6-3 victory in the Eastern Rules contests. Now, Game 4, where Montreal having a possibility of taking the title, Portland was well due for a comeback, and that's what happened. They evened the series with a 6-5 victory in that fourth contest on March 28th. Now, the Rosebud had taken an early 3-0 lead, only to see the Habs tied to take a 4-3 advantage. In the third, Portland's Fred Harris became the hero by scoring twice, and Charlie Axila scored once to take a 6-4 lead until the last minute when Lalonde scored to make it closer. Western rules were used. Now, in the final game, pretty well one of the best ever played at the arena, Portland's Tommy Dunderdale gave his team a 1-0 lead before Skinny Ronan tied the contest. The seldom used George Progers then scored the game and series-winning goal to clinch the cup for the Habs. Eastern rules were used. Now, the 16th Stanley Cup was presented by trophy trustee William Fonin. The Canadiens never did engrave their name on the cup for their title season. Now, the following players and staff were members of the Stanley Cup winning team. At center, Lalonde, Pitt, Poulet, and Ronan, Wingers were Arbor, Berlighetti, Forney, and Laviolette. Defenseman Corbeau, McNamara was captain, of course, and Goldie Progers with Vezin and net. Coaching and administrative staff included UP Pouchet as president, George Kennedy, owner, manager, treasurer, Napoleon Dorval, secretary, and S. Newsworthy, trainer, and Aldri Guimau, assistant trainer. Now, although the Rosebuds did not win the series, the Rosebuds had the word Portland, Oregon, PCHA champions 15-16 engraved on a cup after attaining the trophy from the previous year champions of Vancouver Millionaires. This was consistent with the practice at the time that the trophy was passed on to the winner of the league title of the previous Cup Championships League. Portland is thus the only city not to win the Cup outright to be listed as champions on the Stanley Cup. Now, after the series, Canadian, NHA, and World Championship defeated Portland 15-16 was added to the Cup. The anglicized single form of Canadien was engraved, which is Canadian. Now, two non-players' first names are unknown. Manager coach George Kennedy is also known as George Kendall. Montreal Canadian credits him as president in 16. However, the team pitcher lists UP Boucher as president. So again, by the NHL, the first year of the NHL in 1917-18, the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of people don't consider this an NHL Stanley Cup title because the NHA wasn't the NHL at the time. But my God, what a strong Hall of Fame for. And just to remind you, Newsy Lalonde, Jack Laviolette, Didier Pitt, who both got in the Hall of Fame in 63, Vezina got in 45, but Newsy Lalonde was the main guy there. And I think a lot of people see him as the great superstar of the squad, and everybody that was a Habs fan in the 1920s and 30s saw Newsy Lalonde as the guy. Skated like the wind, knew what their net was. So the rough stats of the season, I'm just going to go over the regular season just to remind you. Didier Pitt had 39 points that season, including 24 goals. Newsy Lalonde had 28 counters. Howard McNamara had 10. Jack Laviolette had 11 points in 18 games, including 8 goals. Goldie Proger had 8 counters. Bert Corbeau had 7 goals to lead his side. Amos Harbour had 5 goals. Louis Berlinquette had 2 counters and 2 assists in 19 games. Skinner Poulet had 3 goals in 10 games. Skeen and Ronan had 7 goals. Seven goals. And Jack Fournier had a single. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great side. But Bert Corbeau ended up with 134 minutes of penalties that season, while McNamara had 119. So it was a rough year for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here, we're a tribute to our Montreal Canadian teams. Let us know and like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, Cornwall, Ontario was best known for Newsy Lalonde and back in that era. Now they Cornwall Royals and all that, but Newsy, and wasn't scared to take a penalty, ladies and gentlemen. 78 minutes of penalties that year. So again, that's the story of the 1915-16 Montreal Canadiens. If you like what we're doing here, we're a tribute podcast. Let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.